Did you know that over half of US adults are less literate than an average sixth grader? Did you know that anyone, including news companies, can publish lies and claim to be publishing news? There are no laws or regulations that say journalists or reporters must tell the truth. In fact, you might recall that Fox News paid nearly $800 million to settle a lawsuit which would have exposed how they promoted lies about the 2020 presidential election. But how does a news company promote lies? Well, let's start with what is a lie? A lie is something that is not true. Something that's not true might be shared by someone who simply believes it to be true. This is called misinformation. They are misinformed about the truth. Something that is not true could also be shared by somebody who does know the truth and is lying to you anyway. This is called disinformation. They are pretending to inform you when they actually want you to believe a lie. So misinformation is not accurate, but not necessarily trying to trick you, but could be. Whereas disinformation is not accurate, but deliberately trying to trick you. News companies will publish misinformation and disinformation through misleading headlines. A misleading headline is a headline for an article that leads the reader to infer something that is not actually supported by the article. Let's take this Fox News article that recently came out as a case study. In this article, the headline reads, "Doctors react after Biden's live address to the nation, a concerning lack of emotion. It's a very emotional time for him and he isn't showing it," said one doctor, also perceiving a lack of conviction. What are some things that stand out to you in this article? Well, right now, here's the things that stand out to me. We see health, doctors, concern, isn't showing, lack of conviction, etc. They mention health, and in fact, that's the category of the article. So maybe this is something related to health or something medical. If we're not meant to infer something about his health, why isn't this tagged politics? It also mentions doctors plural, which implies a consensus opinion from experts. It uses the word concerning. Maybe experts are concerned. It also uses the word lack of emotion, lack of a conviction. Maybe something is wrong. Now let's take a look at what the article actually says. Here's what we see above the fold. When you click on an article, the above the fold section is anything that you would see before you'd have to scroll down or click on a read more button that would expand the rest of the article. For a paywalled article, the above the fold section is all the parts of the article that you can read before you're gated by a paywall section. Above the fold, we see after President Biden's address to the nation Wednesday night, multiple doctors shared their opinions with Fox News Digital about his perceived health status based on his live speech. So again, we have possible consensus opinion by subject matter experts, multiple doctors shared their opinions, and then health status. There's that word again, health. It's important to remember about above the fold content that most people do not read beyond the headline. And for the few people that do read beyond the headline, most of them don't read past the fold. That's very important because the information in the headline and the fold and above the fold might be different than what the article actually says. Let's keep reading the article. So he's seated in the Oval Office. President spoke relatively briefly about his withdrawal from the 2024 race and his commitment to continuing to serve the country for the next few months. He did not mention his recent COVID infection, ongoing concerns with his cognitive health, or the recent assassination attempt on the life of former President Donald Trump. Now, what do we see here? What I saw was he did not mention something about health, something about health, something about Trump. Now, why mention what was not in the speech? Because he also didn't talk about student loans, prison reform, Kendrick Lamar, or Palestine. Why not mention any of those? Could they be trying to lead their audience to a conclusion that's not actually supported by the article? Let's keep reading. So Dr. Mark Siegel, clinical professor and a Fox News medical contributor who's never treated the president, noted that Biden seemed to be reading from a teleprompter on Wednesday night, as he often does, making it difficult for those watching to gauge his medical fitness. Although Biden stumbled over his words a few times, Siegel was more concerned about the president's apparent lack of emotion. So what do we see here? First thing I see is a glaring contradiction. Turns out it's not multiple doctors, it's actually just one doctor, and that one doctor is a frequent contributor to Fox News. Could there be any bias here? How about this part? Making it difficult for those watching to gauge his medical fitness. So the people, including a Fox News contributor, the one who's being interviewed for this article, cannot gauge his medical fitness from just watching the speech. Now, why would there be so many mentions about Biden's health, even as a category for the article, if we can't gauge his medical fitness from this? He also wrote that Biden stumbled over his words. Do they know that Biden has a stutter? How do they report on other presidents and former presidents who stumble over their words? Or do they? They also said concerned about a lack of emotion. Now, who is to say whether you're showing emotion or not? Well, let's keep reading. It's a very emotional time for him, and he isn't showing it, the doctor told Fox News Digital after the speech. He seems to lack conviction. Is a Fox News contributor doctor qualified to comment on what the President of the United States is feeling while addressing the nation? Isn't that just an opinion about Biden's performance? Let's keep reading. Siegel expressed concern that Biden, quote, could be depressed and shocked by the current reality. I feel compassion for him, Siegel went on. How can he quote from the Declaration of Independence without much conviction? I feel bad for him and for us. He could be depressed and shocked. Isn't this just someone's opinion? Depression is a medical condition, and they've already said medical fitness can't be gauged. So why are they publishing this for you to read? So let's ask again, what does the article actually say? A doctor who was a regular Fox News contributor shared his opinions about what Biden might be feeling. There's no actual evidence of what Biden was actually feeling. There's no information from Biden's press secretary about what Biden was feeling. The article itself states you can't gauge medical fitness from the speech. So there's no actual facts at all. It's just one person's opinion shared in a way to suggest that there is consensus among doctors that there's something wrong with Biden's health. Now let's recap. Misinformation is something that's not accurate, not necessarily trying to trick you, but could be. Disinformation is not accurate, but deliberately trying to trick you. News companies will publish misinformation and disinformation through misleading headlines. A misleading headline is a headline for an article that leads the reader to infer something that is not actually supported by the article. So is this Fox News headline misleading readers? And if a news company publishes misleading headlines, can we trust them to tell the truth?